Someone asks how you are and you say fine and it's true. Nothing hurts. But something else is also true, and it's harder to say out loud. Nothing much lands either. The good news last week registered as information. You watched something you'd have cried at 5 years ago and noted at a distance that it was sad. That's not calm. And the reason it gets mistaken for calm is that we've defined peace as the absence of disturbance, which makes numbness look like a total success. The tradition I keep coming back to had a term that gets mistranslated in exactly this direction. Apatheia. It looks like our word apathy and it means close to the opposite. The monks who used it did not mean feeling nothing. They meant not being dragged, the state of a person who can experience the full force of something and remain able to choose their response to it. Anger arrives and is felt completely, and does not become the next 20 minutes. Grief arrives and is not managed, deflected, or diluted, and the person can still act. Notice that this requires more feeling, not less. You cannot be undragged by something you never let in. The numb person isn't undragged, they're just not being touched, and the moment something gets past the barrier, they're as flattened as anyone, usually more because they've had no practice. There's a useful image in that literature, the untroubled surface of deep water. Not a puddle which is undisturbed because there's nothing in it. Deep water is undisturbed because of what's underneath. Both are still. Only one is stable. So how do you actually tell which one you've got? 2 tests, and they're honest ones. First, can you still be moved by good things? Numbness isn't selective. It doesn't dampen the painful and leave the joy intact. That's not how the mechanism works. If the anxiety has gone quiet and so has the delight, you didn't find calm, you turned something down that only has one dial. Second, can you be near someone else's pain? A calm person can sit with somebody having the worst day of their life and stay present. A numb person can too, in a way, but they'll notice, if they are honest, that they aren't really there, that they're waiting for it to end, that a barrier is doing the work rather than a capacity. If you recognize yourself in the numb column, I'd say 2 things about that. It's not a moral failure. It's almost always a reasonable adaptation to something that was genuinely too much at the time, and it worked, which is why it stayed. And it's not permanent, though it comes back slowly and in an unwelcome order. The difficult feelings usually return before the good ones do, which is exactly the point where most people decide numbness was better. The peace worth having was never the absence of feeling. It's the ability to feel the whole thing and remain yourself while you do.